I know dang well that this is going to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest things I've ever done to my car. So I will try to make this tutorial-esque, but at the same time, this is my only day off this week and I really want to get this done. I already loosened the lug nuts on the wheel, so I'm going to jack up both sides of the car, and there's two ways this will come out. Either I can somehow feed it upward. I don't know if you'll even be able to see that right there is the remote mount. Either I could try to feed it upward and try to avoid all these lines, but even then that's difficult, or I could take off the catalytic converter and feed out through the exhaust, but even then that's also not so fun to do. I've seen a lot of people feed it up more than feed it out, so I'm going to try to get the old one out through the top. Took off the wheel, currently sitting on it. Actually not as deep in there as I thought it would be, but it's right there. I just gotta get a bunch of extensions and I think a 17 mil. One, I was right, it is a 17. For two, that's every extension I have right here. Oh jeez. I have the hydraulic jack with the block of wood getting right below the fill or the drain port for the transmission, which I also do need to do transmission fluid along with axles. That's where I have it, and I gave it like one pump just to have the engine, like all the mounts are still disconnected, or still connected, so I'm trying to phrase this and think at the same time, sorry. So I should be giving myself a little more space other than what I have over here. I don't know how well the camera can see that, but I can't. But this hole right here, this hole right here, this is the greatest zoom I'm gonna get. These are all just deep 14s. It's a good thing I have a deep 14. You need a deep 14 for every single one of these. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure this stud and this bolt are the two things, but my question is, why is this wet? I'm guessing probably something to do with the AC condenser. There's probably an oil leak somewhere for all I know, but like, I got enough to wiggle it, so I can wiggle it, but like, my question is, why is this nut wet?
If and when, or just if you decide to do this, I would recommend removing the catalytic converter and the heat shield above it. That gives the most access without removing the bracket. I removed the bracket in the video and it was challenging to get back on. I was only able to get one bolt back on in the mount itself, so that way I could at least drive it to a mechanic to get it done. But like, I realize now if I removed the catalytic converter, I would have been able to lift it up, bend it like a little bit away from me, and just pull it out through the rear while keeping the bracket in place. If you remove the bracket, it's going to be very hard to get back in. As I show later in the video, it will be possible to remove the mount and the bracket through and feed it through the axle. That makes it very easy to feed it in and out, but getting the bracket on there with the mount at the same time is not easy. So bracket has to go on first and then the mount has to go on next. But they can't go in at the same time. It's just such a tight fit, it's stupid. So I would actually recommend removing the exhaust, or at least just the catalytic converter to have more space, or try to get your car to a drivable state and then drive it to a shop, or just remove the catalytic converter. Also, later in the video, I will show that or not show. So the new part didn't line up, the studs on the new part didn't line up with the subframe, and I don't know if that was like a manufacturing error because it's an aftermarket part. I totally cheaped out, even though these parts feel great. I did not want to spend $600 on OEM parts, but a mechanic was able to get the part in for me, and everything, all the bolts in there, everything torqued down correctly, and it feels great.
This thing has taken some oil, I guess, somewhere in there. Also, look at this bolt. It's not really badly rusted. I could clean off the threads. The threads are what matters, but like, just, that bolt is interesting. Actually, no, it does come with new hardware, but I got the ratchet, and then, should this even be wiggling? Like, the main bolt isn't even loose, and it's just wiggling so freely. I don't think it should be doing that. I'm just gonna say this now. I was like maybe 2 seconds from going to get the Unga Dunga. And by that, I mean the electric impact. I have an electric impact, but I don't want to use it ever. Not because I'm afraid of damaging anything, but I want to see how much with this I can get done with just basic hand tools. But it's there for emergency purposes, and I barely even got this out. I don't even know how many extensions this is. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, like 4 extensions with the 17 millimeter and the 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter, since my 17 mil is a 3/8 bit. And then the socket. Also, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but like the bracket that holds the rear mount onto the transmission it is loose. And I actually knew that it was, you'll see what I mean by I knew it, what was happening whenever I get this loose. There's something I want to show y'all. Sadly, the bolt is looking way better than the mount itself. This is going to be very hard to see what the hell I'm doing. So there are 3 bolts to the bracket, and all 3 of them are actually loose. One of them's cross-threaded, but the other, I'm going to remove this bracket, and people said that's a really bad thing to do. Don't remove the bracket, but like, I was intending on removing it anyways just because of that cross-threaded bolt. So I'm going to remove the bracket, which should help me get the motor mount out. Which, if it's, I didn't even put a wrench on this or anything. I'm just loosening it by hand and it's coming out by hand. That's great. Alright, let's see how well I can get this on camera before I use my eyes again. There's the motor mount, and then there's a bracket there that connects to, but that bracket's held in by 14mm bolts, and it's badly cross-threaded to where it's not even in there. Can I even get a shot? Yeah, right there, you can see it. Will the flashlight help? Kind of. You're not gonna be able to see that at all, I'm so sorry. Can I zoom in any further? Okay, camera's not gonna pick it up, but there's a 14mm and it is cross-threaded, and I'm unthreading it. I intended on removing this bracket the entire time, so I have some Loctite and I'll just torque it down to whatever. Different angle here, let me get the flashlight in here. Underneath the car next to the axle. So that one, the top one I'm looking at right now was cross-threaded, removed it. This one is actually just, they've all been this loose the entire time, and I'm just trying to remove this one right now so I can remove the motor mount. Here's that bracket, and let's see, I think that was the normal bolts. They're all the same, but like one of them, I think it was this one that was cross-threaded in there a little bit. The bolts aren't damaged, thank goodness. I hope nothing's damaged. Here's the mount, and here's how it would sit in the mount. Hopefully I can like kind of free this one now. Oh, it's so close, it wants to come out. So people usually feed it upward through here, which is very hard to do and may require removing the battery. Some people remove the catalytic converter, but I might be able to feed it out through this axle. Oh my gosh, I was expecting to be at this for like 6 hours. You can feed it out through the axle, oh my god. That took like 10 minutes, oh my god. Wait, that's actually so huge. Like, actually, wait. I may just be, I'm a little hype right now that I got that out. Look at the old one is not that bad, but it's starting to get bad. Ooh, never mind, it's really bad. Can I zoom out? Here's the old one, it has an MT on it. Wow, that one does not, but old one, badly cracked. New one, obviously new one. Okay, so you can feed it out through the axle. That's very good to know. So the plan to get this one in there, I'm going to set it in there, and then I'm going to have it on its side, kind of, so that way I can get the bracket in there, put some Loctite on these bolts, and tighten it down as much as I can. These are 14mm. I don't know their torque spec. I don't even know if they have a torque spec, so I'm just going to tighten them down as much as I possibly can with Loctite. Just to make, because like this thing, the entire time, by the way, this one was cross-threaded, this one was loose. No, cross-threaded, loose. So they were all loose to begin with. It couldn't be any worse than just shoving Loctite on there and tightening it down. It couldn't be any worse. Alright, so I got the mount in there. I fed it through the axle, which was very easy to do, by the way. I am going to get the bracket in there with the bolts and put Loctite on the bolts and tighten it as much as I can. I'll try to find a torque spec, but I don't think there is one somewhere. I don't know.
Hello again. So my plan here was to have the mount suspended in one spot in the area so I could easily feed it back in, but also give enough space to put the bracket in there. Because you can get the bracket in there while having the mount off, like floating a little near the converter. My only issue is that I had nothing to keep it held against it. If you have like maybe a string or a bungee cord to just like tie to the converter real quick so you could put the bracket in and then feed that in, then this could have totally worked out and I probably wouldn't have had to go to a mechanic to get it done. But that was my thought at the time.
I'm not proud of this, but the new rear mount cannot go in right now because this stud will not line up and I can't modify it enough to get it to line up. I tried a little bit, but I'm just bad at this. So for the sake of the rest of this video, I'm going to be reinstalling the rear mount if I can. Alright, the farthest I got, I have the old mount in. I need to torque down the bottom bolt still. I have the through bolt in, and I have one bolt for the bracket out of 3 that is in the bolt hole, not cross-threaded, so I just need to tighten that down. The plan is to tighten that one bracket bolt down, and then torque down, or lower the engine, torque down, or at least tighten the old motor mount, so that way I can at least drive it to a shop. Now, if this was the newer mount, what I would do is get all 3 bolts in the bracket, or at least as much as I can, which I can't. The bracket sucks. I would torque down the bottom bolts, lower the engine, and then torque down the through bolts. And then that's how it would be done. Since this is a tutorial, that's how I'm explaining how I would have done it. But this is how I'm looking. My hand is looking right now. This was supposed to be a tutorial video, but I tried. I couldn't do it, sadly, but I tried, and that's all that matters. How is this looking? Show me something. Show me some good news, at least. I can at least drive my car. How's it looking? That's in there. That's like up against it, which is good. I tightened it as much as I can. The old mount is bad, but it's in there. I can't get the new one. I'm sad about it. Or else I would have gotten it in. I also can't get the bracket. The brackets. You need to get the bracket in before the mount. Yes, you can theoretically, or you definitely not theoretically. You definitely can feed the mounts through the passenger side axle, but you have to get rid of the mounts to do that. And to get rid of the mount, you need to loosen up all the bolts on it. All 5. Well, the one nut and the one bolt and the 4 nuts, including the through bolt. You have to loosen up with the engine raised a little bit, so that way it has something to go onto. So that once you get the motor mount out, you can loosen the 3 bolts that hold on the bracket. Get the bracket out of the equation, and then feed the motor mounts through the passenger axle area, because it can definitely fit through there quite easily, actually. But all of that is useless if you can't get the bracket back in, which I was only able to get in by 1 bolt, and that's just enough to let me drive the car. It's not going to feel good, and it probably will do damage if I do anything rough, but I need to either get a new part or something, because it's just the studs on that one didn't line up. That's the only issue. So I'm thinking remove the catalytic converter so that way you can pull the mount out backward without removing the bracket, and then put the new mount in there, assuming it fits, because that one just doesn't fit. I love the quality on it, but just the studs it was like a few millimeters off, and now I gotta return it and get another part. I don't even know if the front mount will fit, but I don't know about the front mount. If I'm returning one, I might as well just return them both, honestly. The mechanic was able to get the new mount in there, so new mount does fit. Nice.